Surah Al-Anbiya. Surah Al Anbiya, which consists of 112 verses, is included in the Makkiyah surah group. This chapter is called Al Anbiya, the prophets, because this chapter tells the stories of several prophets. The beginning of Surah Al Anbiya emphasizes that humans are negligent in facing the day of reckoning. Then, due to the Mecca polytheists' denial of the revelations brought by the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, Allah confirms that, although the prophets were ordinary people, each of them was human. They brought revelation whose main teaching was monotheism and the obligation for humans to worship Allah, the Creator. People who do not want to acknowledge the power of Allah and deny the teachings brought by the prophets will be punished by Allah in this world and in the afterlife. Then the story of several prophets and their people was presented. Finally, the chapter closes with an appeal for the polytheists of Mecca to believe in the teachings brought by Muhammad, so that they do not experience what the previous people experienced. Apart from those mentioned above, the main contents of Surah Al Anbiya. Human negligence towards the Day of Judgment, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 1 to 10. These verses describe how people are careless and turn away from calculating their deeds, listening to God's warning while playing around, and their hearts are careless. Those who are unjust keep conversations secret, doubt the Prophet Muhammad, and ask for miracles like the previous prophets. The Prophet Muhammad explained that God knows all the words in the heavens and the earth. Even though evidence was given to the previous people, no one believed before they were destroyed. Allah sent several men before the Prophet Muhammad, gave them revelations, and kept his promise by saving those he willed and destroying those who exceeded his limits. The Quran was revealed as a warning, but many do not understand it. God's way of destroying unbelievers. Mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 11 to 15. These verses explain how Allah destroyed many of the people of the unjust land, then replaced them with a new generation. When they realized the punishment of Allah, they fled, but Allah admonished them not to run hastily and to return to the pleasures of life and the place of rest, their abode to be judged. They feel wretched and oppressed, and their complaints do not cease until they are made like a harvested crop and an extinguished fire. Purpose of creation of nature. Mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 16 to 24. Allah did not create the heavens and the earth and all that is in them in play, and if He wills anything as play, He will create it from Himself. Allah throws the truth into the untruth, which then destroys it and it disappears. To Allah belongs all that is in the heavens and the earth, and the angels are with Him continually glorifying Him without ceasing. Allah rebukes those who take gods besides Him, stating that if there were gods besides Allah, the heavens and the earth would have perished. Allah will not be held accountable for His actions, but they will be held accountable. The Prophet Muhammad was asked to challenge those who associated partners with Allah, but most of them did not understand the truth and so turned away. Evidence of the misguidance of the mushriks. Mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 25 to 29. Allah did not send any messenger before the Prophet Muhammad, but He revealed that there is no God but Him, and the people were asked to worship Him. Allah emphasizes that the angels are not His children but glorified servants, do not speak before Him, and always carry out His commands carefully. Allah knows everything that is before and behind the angels, and they only intercede for those whom He pleases. Anyone among the angels who claims to be a god other than Allah will be rewarded with hell as punishment for the wrongdoers. Natural phenomena as evidence of God's power. Mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 30 to 33. Allah rebukes the disbelievers to realize that the heavens and the earth were once one before He separated them, and that all living things came from water, but still they do not believe. Allah created solid mountains on the earth so that it would not shake with them, and provided broad paths as a guide. He created the sky as a protected canopy, but they remain turned away from the signs of His greatness. It is Allah who created the night and the day and the sun and the moon that move in orbits. Life in the world is not eternal. Mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 34 to 36. Allah states that there was no eternity for a human being before Prophet Muhammad, so if he died, would they be eternal? Every living thing will taste death, and Allah tests humans with evil and good as a trial, because to Him all will be returned. When the disbelievers saw Prophet Muhammad, they only made him the object of ridicule, calling him someone who insulted their gods, when in fact they were people who denied remembering Allah the Most Gracious. Human character and behavior, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya, verses 37 to 41. Allah states that humans were created in haste and He will show signs of His power, but it is forbidden to ask for the punishment to be hastened. The disbelievers questioned when the promise of punishment would come, showing their doubt. If they knew that they could not avoid the fire of hell and would not get help when it came, they would not ask for the punishment to be hastened. The day of judgment will come suddenly, causing them to panic without being able to refuse or get a reprieve. Allah also reminded them that the messengers before the Prophet Muhammad had been mocked, and the punishment that they always mocked would descend on those who mocked the messengers. Allah's provisions cannot be rejected. Mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya verses 42 to 46. Allah told the Prophet Muhammad to ask who would protect people from Allah's punishment at night and day, because they had turned away from remembering their Lord. There is no God but Allah who can protect them from His punishment, because the gods they worship cannot help themselves or protect them from Allah's punishment. Although Allah gave them and their ancestors pleasure, when Allah reduced the area of land controlled by the infidels, they were unaware of His power. The Prophet Muhammad only warned with revelation, but the polytheists were deaf and did not listen to the warning. If they felt a little of God's punishment, they would admit their mistakes and realize that they had always wronged themselves. Allah's justice. Mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya, verse 47, Allah will establish a just scale of deeds on the day of resurrection so that no one will be harmed, even if it is only the weight of a mustard seed. Surely Allah will calculate it perfectly. Allah is sufficient as a reckoner. The incident of Prophet Musa and Harun receiving al-Furqan, mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya, verses 48 to 50. Allah gave Musa and Harun al-Furqan, the Torah, as a light of life and a reminder for those who are pious, namely those who fear the punishment of God even though they do not see Him and are afraid of the day of resurrection. The Quran is a blessed reminder that has been revealed, and people are asked not to be disbelievers in it. The attitude of Prophet Ibrahim to the tradition of worshipping idols, mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya verses 51 to 56. Allah gave guidance to Ibrahim before Musa and Harun knew him well. Ibrahim rebuked his father and his people about idol worship, to which they replied by calling their ancestors its worshippers. Ibrahim asserted that they were all in manifest error, and declared that their God was the Lord of the heavens and the earth who created them, and He was a witness to the truth of that. Prophet Abraham destroys idols, mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya verses 57 to 70. Prophet Ibrahim planned to trick the idols after the worshippers had left, and succeeded in destroying the idols except for the largest one so that they would ask him. The idol worshippers were angry and denounced Abraham, wanting to take him to show the people. Ibrahim insists that it was the large statue that was not destroyed that did it, making them realize that they had wronged themselves. Even though they called for burning Ibrahim, Allah made the fire cool and saved Abraham, while the idol worshippers became the ones who suffered the most losses. The pleasures bestowed on Prophet Abraham after the ordeal, mentioned in Surah Al-Anbiya verses 71 to 73. Allah saved Ibrahim and Lut to the land that He had blessed for all the worlds, and gave Ibrahim a son named Ishaq and a grandson named Yaqub, making both of them pious people. They are made leaders who give instructions according to Allah's commands, receive revelations to do good deeds, perform prayers, pay zakat, and worship only Allah.
The story of Prophet Lut and Prophet Noah, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 74 to 77. Allah gave Lut wisdom and knowledge and saved him from the punishment that befell the evil and wicked inhabitants of the land of Sodom. Lut was included in God's mercy because of his goodness. Allah also answered Noah's prayer and saved him and his followers from a major disaster, helped him from those who believed his verses, who were ultimately drowned by Allah because of their crimes. The story of Prophet David and Prophet Solomon, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 78 to 82. Allah reminds us of David and Suleiman, who made a decision regarding a field damaged by the goats belonging to their people, with Allah as a witness to their decision. Allah gave understanding to Solomon as well as wisdom and knowledge to both of them. David was taught how to make armor to protect himself from enemies, while Solomon was given control over the strong winds and the demons who worked for him. All this is proof of God's power and grace to them. The story of the prophet Ayub, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya, verses 83 to 84. Allah answered Ayub's prayer when he prayed for healing from the illness that befell him, and Allah healed him, returned his family, and multiplied their number as a mercy and reminder for all who worship him. The story of Prophet Ismail, Prophet Idris, and Prophet Zulkifli, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 85 to 86. Allah reminded me of Ismail, Idris, and Zulkifli, all of whom were patient and pious people, so Allah included them in His mercy as proof of goodness and blessings for them. The story of the Prophet Jonah, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 87 to 88, Allah reminds us of Jonah, who left in anger, but then realized that Allah would not make things difficult for him. Jonah prayed in deep darkness, confessing that there is no God but Allah, and feeling that he was one of the wrongdoers. Allah answered his prayer and saved him from sorrow as an example of how Allah saves the believers. The story of Prophet Zakaria, Prophet Yahya, and Maryam, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 89 to 91. Allah reminds us of Zakaria, who prayed to him for descendants, and Allah answered his prayer by granting him Yahya and making his wife able to conceive. They always hastened in goodness, praying to Allah with full hope and anxiety, and being devout to him. Allah also reminded about Maryam, who guarded her honor. Then Allah breathed His Spirit into her, making Mary and Isa a sign of His greatness for the entire universe. Religion of Tawhid, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 92 to 97. The religion of Tawhid is one religion, and people are asked to worship Allah Almighty. Even though they are divided in matters of religion, every group will return to Allah. People who believe and do good deeds, their efforts will not be wasted, because Allah records all their deeds. Allah confirms that the people of a land that has been destroyed will not return to the world, and Yajuj and Majuj will descend after their walls are opened. When the day of resurrection draws near, the disbelievers will feel panic and regret their negligence, realizing that they have done wrong. The state of the polytheists and believers in the hereafter, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 98 to 104. Disbelievers and what they worship besides Allah will be fuel for the hellfire, where they will enter. If the idols were truly gods, of course they would not enter hell. All of them will remain there forever. They will groan and scream in hell without being able to hear anything. However, those who have been given good decrees by Allah will be kept away from hell, will not hear the hissing of hellfire, and will enjoy whatever they want forever. They will not be sad when the terrible surprise of the day of resurrection occurs, and the angels will greet them with the words that that day is the promised day. Allah also emphasized that He will roll up the sky like a scroll of a sheet of paper, restarting creation as it was in the beginning, as a definite promise, and will definitely be carried out. People who have the right to inherit Allah's earth, mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya verses 105 to 107. This earth will be inherited by His righteous servants, according to what has been written in the Zabur and Az-Zikr. The Quran itself contains a clear message for the worshippers of Allah as a guide and guidance. The Prophet Muhammad was sent as a mercy for all the worlds, emphasizing that his prophetic mission was to provide mercy and guidance to all of Allah's creations. Conclusion of Surah Al Anbiya. Mentioned in Surah Al Anbiya, verses 108 to 112. Allah ordered the Prophet Muhammad to convey that God Almighty is the only one revealed to him, and the people are asked to submit to him. If they turned away, the Prophet Muhammad was asked to convey that he had conveyed all the teachings given to him, but did not know when the threat would occur. Allah knows all words spoken openly or secretly, and that the delay of punishment can be a trial or pleasure until the appointed time. The Prophet Muhammad asked Allah to give a just decision because their Lord is the most gracious and the place to ask for help for all words spoken. Conclusion of Surah Al-Anbiya. Surah Al-Anbiya explains that the prophets and messengers sent by Allah are from among humans who are given books and miracles with the same religious basis, Aqidah, even though their Sharia, laws of Furu, differ according to the development of the times and circumstances. In the context of faith, this chapter emphasizes that all prophets and apostles were appointed from the human race, that the heavens and the earth would not perish if there was a God other than Allah, and that all the apostles carried the teachings of monotheism and the obligation to worship Allah. Every living creature will definitely taste death, and the test from Allah can be good or bad, while the day of judgment will come suddenly. The stories told include the Prophet Ibrahim, alayhi salam's invitation to his father to worship Allah, the rebuttal of his people and Namruds, as well as the stories of the prophets Nuh, alayhi salam, Daud, alayhi salam, Sulaiman, alayhi salam, Ayub, alayhi salam, Yunus, alayhi salam, and Zachariah, alayhi salam. Apart from that, this chapter discusses the gift of the Quran, the polytheists' demands for the Prophet Muhammad, PBUH, to bring about another miracle, and explains that the destruction of a people is caused by their injustice. This chapter also highlights the creation of the heavens and the earth and its wisdom, the dialogue between idols and their worshippers in hell, the appearance of Gog and Magog as signs of the arrival of the day of judgment, as well as the fact that the earth will be inherited by God's servants who can prosper it.